Since the Federal Reserve was established, the United States dollar has lost 97% of its value. Rate cut from the Federal Reserve could be coming down the road. What does that mean? What do you think that would mean for the price of silver, for the price of gold? We've also got a ton of doom and gloom to talk about. Guys, the hits keep coming, right? We know we're heading into some very challenging, difficult times. And when things get difficult, this rate cut by the Fed could be here sooner than we anticipate. And again, we have been fighting with the Federal Reserve for the last year and a half, right? They have killed the price of silver and gold. What do you think about this? I heard one of these analysts saying this the other day, like, oh, we don't really have recessions anymore. We just have slowdowns. We don't have recessions like we had back in the 80s or the 2000s. We just have slowdowns. And I think there's something very scary hidden within that. And what's scary hidden within that is, yeah, that means that, and we've talked about this, right? The U.S. economy, the world economy, because of all this debt, we have record amounts of debt, guys, in the world. And you know what? Every little penny of that debt, every last dollar of that debt, somebody thinks they're going to get paid back. And there's mathematically no way all the debt can get paid back. So we're in a situation that's very delicate, very fragile. The world economy has become delicate, especially in the United States. Guys, it is delicate and fragile right now. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pimbex, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pimbex is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement. So when things happen, the Fed, the Treasury, like the little banking crisis back in March and April, they had an emergency meeting on a Sunday. This is not a big deal. We just had an emergency meeting. Don't worry about it. The banks are fine. We're going to do some backdoor money printing and fix everything. So when we hear people say, oh, we're never going to have recessions. We're in a new era. We've heard that before, right? I've heard that. I'm 53 years old. Have you heard that? Like, oh, things are different now. Things are never going to have a recession again, right? Maybe we won't have a recession. Maybe we'll torpedo right into a depression. I said it first. Now, I'm not predicting that, but that's what scares me. When you start to have people saying, no, everything's fine. Have another beer. Don't worry about it. Well, we don't have recessions anymore. Now we just have depressions, or maybe they'll make up a new word for it, like, economic challenge. I don't know. What do you think would happen to you? Let me ask you this question. This is a serious question. What do you think would happen to you if you had a bunch of debt, okay, like a ton of debt, car debt, house debt, student loan debt, credit card debt. You had a bunch of debt, okay, a pile of debt. And on top of that, let's say you had a job paying you $60,000 per year, but you lived like you made $100,000 a year. What do you think would happen to you? What kind of situation do you think you would? I mean, maybe you could juggle it for a couple years, right? For a little while. But eventually, the hens would come home to roost. And we are in that situation right now. We are in a dire situation in the United States financially right now. I know things are different. We're never going to have another recession, right? Joe Biden's new economic miracle. No, we are in a dire situation. I mean, think about this. What do you think you would have said? Most of you are around my age. If 25 years ago right now, we had told you that the United States would have $33 trillion in debt. And to make matters worse, that the country was continuing to spend much more money than it brought in, to the tune of just another trillion. So we were adding an additional trillion to that already huge debt pile every single year. But wait, there's more. This is so key for us to understand, right? But that massive growing debt pile, they have to pay interest on that. Oh, and the interest rates are going up. So the higher level of debt at a higher interest rate level, that creates a massive interest rate expense. They're saying within 12 months, we could be at like $1.3 trillion a year in interest expense. And what does that get added to? Well, that goes right back around. It's like a nasty circle, like a death spiral. That extra interest expense gets added onto the deficit, right? And where does that get added to? Well, that goes back to the big debt pile. Guys, it's like a snowball that's rolling downhill, but it's already been rolling. Where we are right now is scary. It's already been rolling down the hill. It's about, 2/3 or 3/4 of the way down the hill. It's growing massive, and as it gets bigger, it grows exponentially bigger. That's what Jerome Powell knows is going on, right? He understands, right? But so they'll just print more. And what happens when they print more money? Because it's mathematically impossible that they don't. They dilute the currency, or they make it worth less or worthless. Eventually, first it's worth less, then it's worthless. Let's go back since the start of the Fed. I've heard this several times in the past week, and it's disturbing that since the Federal Reserve was established, the United States dollar has lost 97% of its value. The US dollar, let that sink in, right? This, right? Compared to where it was when the Fed started, a $2 bill, right, is now worth 6 cents. Think about that. What about this stuff? What is this stuff? Does anybody know what this is? Keeps showing up on my desk. This shiny, look at that. I love that unicorn. Isn't that beautiful? I'm sorry. It shows up nice on the camera, too. Yeah. What about this since the start of the Fed? Right? This ounce of silver. Guess what? Oh, surprise, 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 Gomer Pyle. For those of you who are in different countries, you may not know who Gomer Pyle is. Surprise, 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 Sergeant Carter. This has maintained its value because the world is still changing like never before in your and my lifetime. It's not reported in the evening news, okay, but it's happening. De-dollarization. It's not going to happen overnight, okay? We don't like it. I don't like it. Look, I already went through the whole debt situation, deficit situation, interest rate. It's a doom spiral that our leaders have put us into. I love the United States. I love the Constitution. I love Thomas Jefferson. I really love Andrew Jackson, okay? These guys, they set us up, and because of greed, basically, right? Greed and power hunger, especially post-World War II, we've had our leaders that have pillaged our country, right? The founding fathers we're in good company, right? They're rolling over in their graves. I would not want to go visit. If you go visit, Andrew Jackson's grave or Thomas Jefferson's grave or Washington or any of the people that wrote the Constitution, be ready to feel like there's an earthquake because those guys are rolling over in their graves with what this current regime over the last several decades have done to pillage our country. If you have kids, if you have grandkids, I have twin 11-year-old daughters, we got a lot to be scared about, okay? I try to teach my kids, the stuff they teach them in school is great. They teach them how to do advanced mathematics already at 11 years old. My kids can write really well, all that great stuff. My daughter Evelyn wrote out this whole page essay the other night because she has a little Honda dirt bike. She wants to ride it when I'm not home, and I won't let her, but she wrote out this, the kids, they're not teaching your kids the important stuff, right? About stay out of debt, keep yourself out of debt, develop good, strong skills. No, they're teaching your kids, and bear with me because this is important, how to become good little workers, good little good little slaves, okay? There's no other way to say it, right? Get yourself in debt. Here's what you do. Go off to college, get yourself in debt, and then get a job and spend the rest of your life trying to get yourself out of debt. So we want to educate our kids, and we want to educate ourselves, and we want to do the best we can. Look, here's the thing. You want the perfect answer. If we boil it all down, we want safety and security for our family. We want to provide for our families and our loved ones and our friends, right? And for each other. And that's cool, because I know everybody here shares that. And the closest thing I can come to is thinking silver, gold, right? I own gold mining stock, so you can knock me for that. I understand. But physical silver, metals, right? That they are they're the insurance policy. But they're an insurance policy, I don't care what anybody says, that has the potential to really provide you with some wealth as well, right? Now, when would that happen? Okay, let's talk about that. Let's say the glue comes apart on the system. We could get into a situation where the relative value of your ounces of silver, your ounces of gold go super high. Like we hear about these stories of, people bought, do you think it's possible to buy a house, a nice little, let's say 1,500 square foot house for 100 ounces of silver? It sounds absurd. I understand. It does. But if we get into a extreme situation, and I mean, guys, we got to remember something about the metals. Potentially. We feel like we're when we're here together, we're part of a team. We're part of a group of people that kind of feel the same way and think the same way. We are not. We are a small segment of the population. We saw what happened during the banking crisis that happened in March and April, just 3-4 months ago. You couldn't get silver. When that banking crisis hit, and they didn't even really call it a crisis back in March and April, people freaked, right? People on their phones took their money out of the bank, whatever. You couldn't find silver. We've talked about that ad nauseum. You couldn't find silver. Silver price shot up. The coin shops, nowhere to be found, right? What do you think is going to happen to the value of silver and gold? Not the price. That's measured in dollars. That's measured in euros. Come on, man. Right? We don't buy silver and gold. We convert fiat toilet paper currency. I've got an envelope here of toilet paper. You guys want to see some Las Vegas toilet paper? Here it is. Came all the way from England. Our friend Richard Cooper. This belongs to Neil Hahn, if I ever mail it to him. Richard Cooper sent this. He went to Las Vegas on a vacation, and he brought it home, right? He calls that Las Vegas toilet paper. What do you think is going to happen to the value, not the price, the value of silver? That's when you can buy a small house for 100 ounces, possibly. Maybe 500 ounces, whatever, okay? You know what I'm saying? When everybody freaks, when us, the 1 in 300, becomes 150 out of 300 people want silver, right? I mean, think about it. That's absolutely crazy. I mean, I know it's crazy talk, but throughout the history of the world, we've had 150 out of 300 people want silver and want gold. So is it really that crazy to think that way?